Hunters, thank you for joining us. I'm Joy.
And I'm Laura.
And this is The Witches of Letters, a supernatural rewatch podcast.
Buckle up as we dive into Season 5, Episode 15, Dead Men Don't Wear Plaid. Zombies.
Zombies. Did
I
you
love
ever play
zombies.
that game, Zombies on the Lawn?
No.
So much fun. There's like an entire musical section in it where all these sunflowers are singing about how they don't want zombies on the lawn. It's hilarious. It's so good.
I have not heard of that. That sounds good.
Yeah. I think it was originally for like your PC, but it comes up on my phone sometimes and I'm like, oh, I should download that. That would be really fun.
I'm totally going to let that play.
Yeah, it's really fun. It's because like sunflowers are the main characters.
Yeah, I like sunflowers too.
Yeah.
Do you like this episode because you don't like zombies?
Ooh.
Although they're not really like zombies, are they?
But they are. Like, they don't start out. Well, they sort of do. No. So they like I can podcast, everyone. They start out as zombies. And then there's like a middle bit where they seem sort of normal except for being like really, really, really fucking pale. Okay. And then they start coughing and dying of the plague, and then they're zombies.
Yeah, I like eating people.
Yeah, exactly. So I have mixed feelings about it. And what it is it's that like I am very scared of zombies, don't love zombies, because it's, again, my weakness is body horror, isn't it? And zombies are like pure body horror. So I go, there's that scene with all the phlegm on Jared's face.
Ew, that was disgusting.
Horrific. That was honestly like, I was like kind of almost gagging watching that scene. I had forgotten how visceral and gross it is. As a horror fan, it's amazing. Like, all of the special effects are great. There's so many cool stunts and cool fight scenes. It's from a horror perspective, it is fantastic.
That's why
there
I
is
liked
good
it.
gore. There was the blood was actually blood colored. And it was really, really scary, like especially with Jody Mills's kid eating his father. That scene is horrific. This episode has so much emotional tragedy because like Bobby has to kill his wife not once but twice. And Jody, who has already watched her very young son die, now knows that he has to be killed, and he's murdered her husband. So she's a widower and she's lost her child twice. So like the emotional horror is like a 10 out of 10. I feel like if you don't cry during this episode, maybe you're not human. You know, I always cry every time I watch this episode. I avoid it except for the fact that I do like seeing Jody. It's her first episode. She will become a very iconic character. I think Kim Rhodes is a great actress. Fun fact, guys, Kim Rhodes actually liked one of our reels. So
he sent me that.
Like, my head is still like, what? That's thank you to Nessa Colt. Because she tagged Kim and Kim was like, oh, I like this, and just like the reel. I like lost my mind completely. Nessa is so nice. And I don't know. I don't even know what to say. Like, that was one of the coolest things that's ever happened. So I couldn't get that out of my head because I thought it was such funny timing. Like, the fact that the reel was about her first coming onto the show, and then that happened right as we're like watching and recording this episode where it's her first appearance on the show. So yeah, I don't know. I love Jody.
Yeah, I'm glad she's going to be a recurring character.
So awesome. I feel like Jody is the first successful iteration maybe of them trying to integrate a strong female character onto the show.
And it's only because she wasn't like a love interest.
Yeah. They're like, let's make her a mom and like completely off the table.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I don't know. Like, I couldn't tell you that I like it. Cuz I feel like that's the wrong word. And I don't dislike the episode, but it's one of the ones that like gives me the emotional terrors. And
Yeah.
so it's like I love it for what it is. It's a great piece of storytelling. It's a fantastic piece of horror, but I'm not going to be like, "Hey guys, let's watch this episode." So much fun.
I
Everybody
probably would.
dies. Yeah, you
It's a
probably
roller
would.
coaster. I liked it because I like the zombie stuff. I like I said, all the stunts and stuff. There was also funny bits. It's just classic supernatural, isn't it? This horror. It makes you cry, and it's funny.
Mm,
All the emotions
yeah.
all at once.
Yeah.
I see. I thought it was quite. It was had a fresh take for a zombie episode to start with, because they aren't like stereotypical zombies who want to eat brains to start with. Because it's kind of like
Yeah.
they go back to being the people they were before they died and just want to go home to their families, which is actually quite sweet to start with. And then they start killing everyone. And like Bobby broke my heart with his he's just so sweet because he just wanted to enjoy having his wife back at first. But at least he did get to talk to her this time, and she accepted what was going to happen. In fact, she's the one that told him to kill her, which he didn't get the first time when she was possessed by a demon. So at least, he kind of got that, but he did have to kill her for the second time, which is not very nice.
So British. It's not very nice.
And also, there was no cast this episode. That was my only other note I had.
Oh yeah, there is no Cass this episode. I guess because Cass could have just like solved all of it very fast, probably. So that's probably why there's no Cass. Did you like? So I thought watching this episode, this is honestly like really kind of like Night of the Living Dead zombies, and they're very good zombies. Did you like it from the perspective of somebody who's a fan of
Yeah.
like zombie horror?
There was a part
Yeah.
where I think I call them parkour zombies who are out of 28 days later, because they're like jumping over all the cars and they're going really quick. They're like the rage zombies.
Yeah.
So yeah, I
Um,
liked them.
did you enjoy the part where there's the blood splatter on like the camera lens, like Resident Evil, like
Right, this
gameplay?
is yes, and I didn't know if that was a thing. I actually wrote that in my notes because someone can't remember what it is now, but someone on IMDb had been saying that had pointed that out as a goof, and I was like, but is this not just a video game? It's supposed to be like a video game.
Yeah, I'm 100% sure that they did that on purpose because
Yeah.
back when these episodes were airing, Resident Evil games were like at their height of
Yeah.
popularity and everyone was obsessed with them.
Hmm.
And that was a big thing that was going on. So I completely stand by my Resident Evil theory.
Yeah.
I don't
That's
think
what
it's
I
a
thought as
goof.
well. I'm glad you said that. I couldn't remember which video game it was, but I've definitely said oh yeah, but there's also blood splatter on the camera here when one of the zombies is shot, which someone on IMDb mentioned as a goof, but I think it could have been intentional and an homage to shooter video games from back in the day. So
Yeah, 100%.
yeah. Oh, I'm glad you pointed that out as well.
Hmm. So my preamble for this episode was I was like, only Sam and Dean can come back from the dead. They're like, everybody else, no. It's against the rules. No one else can be zombies. Only Sam and Dean can be zombies, which is funny because tomorrow's Easter. So like zombie Jesus Day.
Zombie Jesus.
He came back. What do you want from me?
Yeah, I did. I've also got in my notes somewhere about Dean. I was like, why is Dean so shocked that this man has come back to life? He's done that at least 100 times.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it's just so hypocritical. Like I understand the context of the episode, don't get me wrong. Like
Yeah.
obviously they're very suspicious because all of these, somewhat ordinary people are coming back and there's no demon deals to be seen. So they're like, there's got to be some kind of demon deal happening somewhere. Only we can do that.
Yeah,
Only
and
we
the Winchesters
can
are
do
allowed to
that.
come back to life.
Only the Winchesters. Also, it bothers me so much that Bobby's wife, like okay, here's the thing. Is I've said this before that ageism in Hollywood directed at women is so crazy. And it's like one of the things that you never used to see was a woman on screen over the age of like 35. It would
Yeah.
never happen. So like the women who are getting cast to play the wives of actors who were born in the 1950s were like born in the 1970s. So like they're like actually Jensen's age playing opposite people who were born in the 50s. So like for instance, the lady in this episode who, rest in peace, she was amazing. She was a great actress. Um she's playing Bobby's wife in this episode, and she's literally like a few years off of Jensen's age. And Jim Bieber, who's fantastic, and it's not his fault that this was the casting decision that was made, was born in 1950, which makes him the exact same age as my mom. Like it's just crazy to me that there's like they're unabashedly casting people with a 20-year age gap because of the expiration date of women on screen.
I mean, I suppose they were. I just watched it as, oh, this is his wife when she died, which they must have been, you know, Bobby would have been a lot younger. But yeah, no, I know what you mean.
But like 20 years though, I'm trying to think of how. I guess that tracks actually. Maybe I'll let them off because I guess that tracks because presumably Sam and Dean are around 20 years old because Sam was like college age and Dean's a little bit older. And we know that Bobby kind of like showed John a few things, and his wife being possessed must have happened first.
Yeah, because they hadn't met her, had they?
So it has to have been about 20 years. So I guess if that's true, then it would make sense because you're right. She would have died at the age that she was at then and come back at the age that she was at. She's not going to like age in the grave, is she? Because the thing that like really stuck in my craw was the fact that the old woman Ezra is like Bobby's age, and she's described in this like she's like 80 or something, and she's not at all. But she's old woman Ezra, and that actress is the same age as Bobby. And then Bobby's wife was like 20. And I'm so used to, from like the early 2000s, seeing women cast who are like 20 years younger than the man that they're cast to play like beside. And it just always grates on my nerves so hard. But I'll let it off. Like you've made a great point. It's fine. I'll let it go this time. This one time.
It's usually me pointing out the plot holes and you defended it.
Yeah, no, today we've swapped sides. Also, before I move on to my next bit of preamble, I want everyone to know that Laura put cockroaches in the fucking out of context quotes again this time. Because, like, evil laugh. Because today she was like, oh, Joy, do you want to see the out of context quotes? And she sent them to me. And I was like, Laura, there's fucking cockroaches in this slide again. Because one of the out of context quotes that she chose was from me talking about prank wars, where she did that last time. She's done it again. She's done it again.
You set me up. I don't know what you were expecting. You brought this on yourself.
I feel like I'm going to have to bring prank wars back this season. So the other thing that I had for my preamble was like a fun fact that I found, which is that, and I have seen this movie, okay? Dead Men Don't Wear Plaid was a 1982 comedy noir homage directed by Carl Reiner, starring Steve Martin as Detective Rigby Reardon. It is famous for seamlessly integrating new footage with 19 vintage film noir clips featuring legends like Humphrey Bogart and Ingrid Bergman. The film was legendary costume designer Edith Head's final project.
That actually sounds really cool.
It is super cool. It's like, honestly, this is memes before memes were born. Because there's so many things that we do now on the internet that are basically what they did in this film. And it was and still kind of is groundbreaking, because I can't think of any other film that has ever done this.
Yeah. What was he like interacting with them as well?
He's interacting with them. So they've taken the clips and edited it so that it literally looks like he's physically interacting with them. It's really cool. You can find clips of it on YouTube.
Oh, cool.
But he's literally like, I found this list of names of people who have died in a soup. And then he's handing it to Humphrey Bogart. And then he's like, I want you to wear this for me tonight. And it's like a bow tie. And he's handing that to Humphrey Bogart. And it's edited so well. It all looks so real. It's crazy.
We'll have to find one of those clips and put it in the show notes so people can go and have a look.
Yeah, I can definitely do that. Oh, and then the other fun fact that I had for my preamble was when Dean says, "Awesome, another horseman must be Thursday." This is also a podcast fun fact. We record on Thursdays because of this. And that's because...
Except this week.
Yeah, right now it's a weekend. We're working super hard for the money that we don't make because this is a free podcast.
For the no money.
For the no money. So this is a reference to the day of the week that Supernatural aired on in the US at the time this episode aired. Lastly, it could also be a reference to the Buffy the Vampire Slayer musical episode when Buffy says, in reference to her sister being kidnapped yet again, "So Dawn's in trouble, must be Tuesday."
And we know it probably is because we know that Eric Kripke was inspired by Buffy. He's confirmed it.
Yeah, multiple times. So 100%. I think that is what is going on.
I love that episode of Buffy as well.
It's a really, really good episode. There's so many great musical moments in it, honestly. So, do you want to do the synopsis?
Yes. So this is season 5, episode 15, Dead Men Don't Wear Plaid. The original air date for this episode was March 25th, 2010. Sam and Dean have to fight a town full of zombies when people start coming back to life. At first they aren't threatening, and the local sheriff, whose son has come back, and Bobby, whose wife has come back, don't want to think anything is wrong. But then the zombies start killing people, so they have to stop them. So that's a short and sweet synopsis today.
It really is. That is what happened. So,
Yeah. My first note was zombies, nice.
That is the most Laura thing ever. It was quite sad. Like Bobby literally having to murder his wife twice. So British. It's quite sad. I can't. Okay, so we see a cemetery. It is night. And then we see a very dramatic headstone, and there's all this storm going on in the background, and it is super horror movie-esque. And I really appreciated it, actually. I love the classic horror references with this single hand pushing up dramatically in front of the gravestone. I thought that was great. And so the headstone says Clay James Thompson. And then we cut to I thought, okay, this is giving me what's the Cornetto trilogy zombie one?
Shaun of the Dead.
Shaun of the Dead. It really is Shaun of the Dead style comedy, but this is before Shaun of the Dead. So I'm pretty sure anyway. But you cut to the trailer at night and we see this dude who's Benny, who looks like a Hell's Angel or something. He looks like he should be in a biker gang, honestly.
Yeah.
And he's watching this documentary about cheetahs, and the storm is raging on outside. And the documentary voiceover is, "Here on the savannah, the wildebeest lounges lazy and self-content and is oblivious to the fierce predator that stalks him from the shadows." And everything that's happening in the scene is being perfectly narrated from the nature documentary, and it makes it comedy gold.
Yeah, I totally didn't notice that. That was a good catch.
Thank you. So it goes on to say, "The great wildebeest herds migrate south in search of water, drinking their fill in preparation for the long dry season to come." And he's swigging a beer, right? So everything's mirroring the narration. "The wildebeest are on edge. Every movement could be the sound of a potential attack. Merely a rustle of the wind through the bushes could scare the entire herd into a bone-crushing stampede." And then the trailer door is right? And so he goes to investigate, but he doesn't really find anything. And so he goes back into the sofa. And me in my notes, I'm as soon as you open the door, but you don't notice it, you're dead. You're a dead man, right? So I'm anticipating it. And I am laughing so hard with the nature documentary voiceover because it goes on. At first, the animal reacts with confusion because he's like, huh. And then the wind blows the door open. He locks it. And then it goes, "The wildebeest returns warily to its watering hole where..." And then suddenly is Clay covered in clay, honestly. And Benny tries to shoot him. He sees him and he reacts in absolute horror because we know later that he killed him. And so like this is like this dead dude who's been dead for 5 years or however long it is comes back to kill him, clearly. So he's terrified. And the documentary is, who are closing in for the kill. When it attacks quickly. And Benny's like, no. And then he gets strangled. And then Benny's like, please, God, no. And it is honestly like watching that part in the nature documentary where you're like, oh, this animal you've shown me. And then they kill it brutally in front of you. And you're like, why?
Yeah. That is really
That's why I
cool,
don't
though.
watch nature docs.
Yeah, I can't watch nature documentaries. I get too upset. I actually cry at them all the time. I can't watch them.
Yeah. The best thing ever, though, was Snoop Dogg with the lizards. And everybody was like, go, dude, go. That's the only one that I'll accept.
Yeah, I hadn't noticed that. That's really cool. I did have one small flag, though.
Okay.
How did the zombie get inside? Because there is no way that he went through that door without us or the guy noticing.
Well, so as you've established, these creatures are Dawn of the Dead fast. So I assume that when Benny turns around after the first time he thinks everything is fine and the door blows open, I assume that there's a moment that we don't see where he goes and goes in. However, I can't remember the angle of the camera. So I don't know if that works or if it should be flagged.
Yeah, I don't know. I was just like, he opens the door, there's no one there. Closes the door, zombies there. I was like, no.
Yeah, it is sus. It is sus.
He's a magical zombie.
Okay, so we see Sam and Dean, and it is daytime, and the title card stuff tells us that it is Sioux Falls, South Dakota. And those of us who are like on the money are going to be like, oh, hey, that's related to Bobby. That's where Bobby is. So Sam is on the phone and he's saying, Bobby, listen, when you get this message, call, okay? And Dean's like, is he still not home? How far could he get in the chair? And I was like rolling my eyes. I was like, he could drive. Like, we've seen him drive. Eye roll. Anyway, so then we cut to inside the diner. And Sam's saying, so what do we do? And Dean's saying, well, I guess we just do it ourselves. And then they sit down at this table opposite this guy. And Dean's like, Mr. Wells, why don't you tell us what you saw in your own words? And Digger says, call me Digger. And Dean's like, Digger? Who gave you that name? And Digger says, I did. And Dean says, you gave yourself your own nickname? You can't do that. And he's outraged. And Digger says, who died and made you queen? And Dean just kind of like, is like, oh. He's so funny. He's so funny. And Sam says, okay, why don't you just tell us what you saw? Because Sam is trying to contain this situation and move them along. Yeah. And Digger's like, I saw Clay Thompson climb into Benny Sutton's trailer through the window. A couple minutes later, Clay walked out and Betty's dead. And Dean's like, and is this the guy you saw? And he shows him the photo of the dead dude. And Digger's like, well, he was all covered in mud, but yeah, that's Clay. And Sam says, and you were aware that Clay Thompson died 5 years ago? And Digger's like, yep. And Dean says, and you're positive that it was this guy? And Digger's like, you call me a liar? And Sam says,
he hates Dean.
No. Of course not. He literally does. Can you think of any reason why Clay Thompson, alive or dead, would want to kill Benny Sutton? And Digger's like, hell yeah. Well, 5 years ago, Benny's the one that killed Clay in the first place. And Dean's like, is that a fact? And Digger's like, well, yeah, so-called hunting accident. Now, if you ask me, Clay came back from the grave to get a little payback. And he's like, go on. And then this is when Sheriff Mills enters on the phone. And she's talking to her returned from the dead child and says, Owen, put down the cupcake and pick up an apple. Okay? Okay. I love you.
I just have a couple of notes about Digger, by the way. First of all, he looks like he has green eyes.
Laura! You know what? No. That's fine. At least it's not about constipation. Okay.
So you're the one that keeps bringing it up. And also, secondly,
no, I am not. That is the only time that I have brought this up.
You did last episode as well.
No, that's because you said something about the poo-poo.
I did not.
Well, there's a recording. One of us is right and one of us is wrong.
My other note was, also, is it just me or is Digger kind of hot? Or is it just because he's sassy?
No, Digger has a certain strange appeal. Because I thought that too. I was like, I feel like I've seen this actor in other things.
Yeah, maybe, yeah. Yeah,
But
I thought
yeah,
it was quite
I think
attractive.
yeah, I think he's all right.
And it got when he said to Dean about who made you queen.
That's
It was
amazing.
just funny.
That's so funny. I also really love it because the next line he says is "Heads up, Fargo," and it's because
Yeah,
Jody's walking over
because she's the chef. I love
because
Fargo,
she's
by the
the
way.
sheriff. He's so funny. And she walks up and she's like, "Digger," in the tone of someone who's had to put up with Digger's nonsense for like many years, right? And Digger says, "Sheriff." So she says, "Gentlemen, I'm Sheriff Jody Mills. I don't believe we've had the pleasure." And Dane says, "Agents Dorfman and Niedermeyer, FBI."
Did you know what these were?
No.
No, they're not rock ones this time. It was Animal House, National Lampoon's Animal House. Kent Dorfman and Doug Niedermeyer were both main characters in that film.
Yeah, I don't feel bad for not knowing that. I was like, that doesn't sound very. I didn't hear a guitar.
Yeah, they weren't rock ones this time. They do
No.
have random like film ones sometimes, don't they?
I love the film references usually, honestly. I just kind of like, I don't think I've watched much of National Lampoon, to be honest with
No,
you. So
I've
just
only watched the
goes over
Christmas
my
one.
head. Yeah. So Jody says, "Welcome to Sioux Falls, gentlemen. Can I ask you what you're doing with Digger here?" This tone that says, "What fuckery is this?"
Yeah.
And Digger says, "They're doing their job. They believe me, Sheriff." And Sheriff Mills is like, "The FBI believes the dead man committed a murder." And Sam says, "Look, we're just asking a few questions, Sheriff. That's all." But Dean, for no reason that I can discern, is all up in arms, except for he doesn't like the police, as we all know. And he's like, "Of course, if a dead man didn't commit the murder, then who did?" And I'm like, Dean, my guy, what? And Sheriff Mills is like, "What'd you say your jurisdiction here was again?" In the tone of, "What the
Yeah,
fuck?"
Dean.
And Dean says, "Our jurisdiction is wherever the United States government sends us." And she's having none of it. And she's like, "Oh, yeah, how about me and your supervisor have a little chat about that?" So Sam says, "Absolutely." And he hands over the FBI contact business card thing. And so she calls the number, and Bobby says, "Agent Willis speaking." And she says, "Agent Willis, this is Sheriff Jody Mills." And then she goes, "Bobby?" Because she recognizes the voice. And Bobby's like, "Oh, excuse me." And Sheriff says, "Is this Bobby Singer?" And Bobby says, "Listen, I don't know who this is, but this is Agent Tom Willis of the FBI." And she says, "Bull crap. FBI, huh?" And she hangs up. And
Yeah.
Sam's like, Sam is sweating bullets. Sam is like, "So, you know Bobby Singer?"
They
And
both look
Dean,
like kids who've been caught doing something they shouldn't.
yeah. Dean's like, "That is a fun coincidence." And Sheriff Mills is like, "Here's what I know about Bobby Singer. He's a menace around here, ass full of drunk and disorderlies and mail fraud. You understand me?" And Dean's like, "I think we can agree that you've made yourself perfectly clear." Yes, while like trying to like slide his way out of the booth almost. Like he is hating life right now. Um, and Jody says, "So whatever the three of you are planning, it ends here now. 10-4 on that, agents?" And Dean's like, "Yeah."
They look so uncomfortable.
Yeah, they're hating everything. It's so funny.
So then we cut to Bobby's house, and Dean and Sam are asking Bobby where he's been, and Dean notices that Bobby's place is cleaner and it smells nicer. Bobby says, "What are you, my mother? Bite me." Because Dean's like says something about soap, doesn't he? It's like, "What is that smell?
Yeah.
Soap?" And then
Yeah.
Bobby's like, "What are you, my mother?" Bobby says he's been working on how to stop the devil, and they ask if he knows about the case that's going on in the town, and he says he does, and he checked it out, and it's nothing. Then they ask about omens, but Bobby dismisses it and says it's just storm season. And right in this scene, I couldn't work out why Bobby looked so strange to me, but then I realised it's because he doesn't have his hat on.
He doesn't have his hat on. He is pristine and his hair is like combed back.
Yeah. I was like, Bobby doesn't like Bobby.
He looks like he's dressed for church.
Yeah.
Honestly, like this is like the church going version of Bobby.
Yeah.
And like I love the fact that they made the house a little bit brighter. And in Karen's scenes, they have her very brightly lit, but the rest of the house is quite a lot darker to give us that
Yeah.
emotional contrast as well, which is really fun.
Yeah, but basically Bobby is saying that he doesn't see what's going on because obviously he knows what's going on, but he doesn't want to admit it yet.
Yeah, and he accuses Digger of being the town drunk, which is funny because seconds ago Jody was like, "It's Bobby. Bobby's the town drunk." No, he's like, "It's Digger."
I just wrote in my notes, the lady doth protest too much.
Yeah, he really did. So then we cut to the Impala and it's nighttime. And Dean pulls into the cemetery and Sam's like, "What's up?" Because Sam is like, "Why the hell aren't we leaving?" And Dean's like, "Isn't that the graveyard back there?" And Sam's like, "Yeah, so what? Bobby already checked it out." And Dean's like, "And Bobby's never wrong. Come on, we'll take a peek and then we'll hit the road. Can't hurt." And I was like, this is another example of Dean's instincts always being spot on.
Yeah. Well, I wrote, do you think Dean knew Bobby was lying or is he just suspicious? Because Dean noticed the house being cleaner.
Don't be suspicious. Don't be suspicious. Don't be suspicious. Okay.
And then I also wrote that sweet baby angel Sam, though, is just like, why do we need to check it out? Bobby already did. Like, Dad wouldn't lie to us.
He's like, Daddy Bobby would never lie. We go now. And whereas Dean's like, nah, friend, something doesn't smell right here.
There's something. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, there's something going on. Dean's like, we better go and check it ourselves.
So they go into the graveyard. They see signs of something off, as it looks like the grave is disturbed. So they dig it up and realise that the coffin is empty. Oh, and I wrote, it was Sam's turn to dig today. I love to see it because usually it means he's going to get all disheveled with a shovel.
This is true. Today it was mostly him like ripping the coffin open with his bare hands, and that was pretty hot.
Mm-hmm.
Except it wasn't because I was disgusted and scared. But it would have been hot if it wasn't a zombie episode.
I have a lot of Sam thirst traps this episode. Spoiler alert.
That's fair. So then we cut to the interior of Clay's house because Sam and Dean have decided to investigate further now that they know that he's definitely left his grave. So they go into his house and they're looking around and everything looks very like suburban and happy and all the rest of it. And then suddenly there's a man that attacks them out of the darkness. And Dean ends up pushing him to the ground. And Clay says, "Don't shoot me, please. There's money in the safe." And Dean says, "We don't want your money." And Clay says, "What do you want? Anything, please." And Sam's like, "You're Clay Thompson, right?" And Clay says, "Who are you?" And Sam goes, FBI. He doesn't know what to say. And Clay says, "FBI? Oh my God, this is about Benny." And Dean's like, What about Benny?" And Clay's like, "He killed me. He shot me in the back. I'm supposed to let him get away with that?" And Dean's like, "Hold up. Are you confessing?" And Clay's like, "Please, I'll go with you. Just don't wake up my kids." And Sam says, You go with us where?" And Clay's like, "Jail." So Dean says, "Let me get this straight. You're Clay Thompson and you died 5 years ago." And Clay's like, "Yes." And Dean's like, "And 3 days ago you climbed up out of your grave and you killed Benny Sutton." And Clay's like, "Yes." And Dean says, "So you are in fact a dead guy." And Clay's like, I don't know what I am.
Like, yes,
and then his wife comes in and she's like, "I called 911." And Clay's like, "It's okay, honey. These men are the FBI. They're here about Benny." And Dean's like, "Why don't you come with us, Mr. Thompson? I think that'd be for the best."
Yeah.
Because he's like, "We gotta take him out back like Old Yeller and shoot him."
Oh.
Uh-oh.
This is where I wrote, why is Dean so surprised that this dead guy came back to life? Both him and Sam are dead guys that came back to life.
One of these days, I'm going to spit take this microphone. That's going to be such an expensive mistake. So we cut to the outside of his house, and Sam's saying, "Dean," because we know that Sam doesn't like it when Dean kills people, and Sam's like, he could be people, maybe, possibly.
Yeah, so because Dean hates monsters of any kind, and Sam always sticks up for the monsters. Some things never change.
The song remains the same.
Exactly.
Dean says he's a monster, and Sam says he's a soccer dad. And Dean's like, "What do you want to do with him?" And then suddenly Jody comes from nowhere and is like, "Freeze, drop your guns." And Dean's like, whoa, okay, all right. And Dean says, "Remember the guy that you said was dead and couldn't possibly commit murder? There he is." And she's like, and Dean's like, "And you're welcome for catching the undead zombie killer." And I laughed so hard. You're welcome for catching the undead zombie killer. Oh, sorry, killer zombie. And Jody says, whatever he is or isn't, that don't give you the right to shoot him in the middle of the street. And then she starts arresting Dean. And Clay's like, shoot me. And Sheriff Mills is like, you're free to go, Mr. Thompson. And Dean's like, free to go? And Clay says, I can't believe you were going to kill me. And Dean's like, you're a zombie. And Clay says, I'm a taxpayer. Honestly, I have never laughed so hard in my life.
That was funny. I'm pretty sure that's in my quotes later.
I didn't write the games down, but if I forget I'm a taxpayer, it's at the top of my list.
So then we go to jail. Well, we don't. Sam and Dean do. And they're in a cell. And Dean says, so what? The sheriff's on the take? And Sam says, yeah, no, the zombies are paying her off. And then Bobby comes into the police station. We see him talking to the sheriff. And then he comes to get Sam and Dean out of jail, basically. And they ask him why him and Jody are getting along now. And Bobby admits it's tied to the dead rising up all over town 5 days ago. And Dean is upset at being lied to. Bobby says there are zombies, and then there are zombies, and to go with him. And then we go to Bobby's house.
Mm-hmm. So it's inside Bobby's house, and it's nighttime. And Dean's like, you want to tell us what the hell? And then we see Karen walk in. And Karen's like, oh, hey, I didn't realize you were bringing company. And Bobby's like, it's 4 a.m., babe. You didn't need to cook. And Karen's like, oh, please, I'll get some more plates. And Dean's like, who was that? And Bobby says, Karen, my wife. And Dean says, your new wife? And Bobby says, my dead wife.
Oh, and the look Bobby gives them is so, this is the first time I was like, it's so heart-wrenching because he knows something isn't right, but he's so desperate for his wife to still be alive. And he's just adorable. And this is the first time out of many in my notes that I did the little broken heart emoji.
Yeah, that makes sense. So a little bit later on, Dean is, of course, stuffing his face with pie. And he says, this is incredible, Mrs. Singer. And Karen says, thank you, Dean. And Sam frowns at him and gives him this look. And Dean says, what? It is. Dean's like, this pie is the best pie. And Bobby says, it's great, Karen. Thanks. Could you give us a minute? And so she leaves the room. And Dean says, are you crazy? What the hell? And Bobby says, Dean, I can explain. And Dean says, explain what? Lying to us or the American Girl zombie making cupcakes in your kitchen? And Bobby's like, first of all, that's my wife, so watch it. And Sam's like, Bobby, whatever that thing is in there, it's not your wife. And Bobby's like, and how do you know that? And Sam's like, are you serious? And Bobby says, you think I'm an idiot, boy? My dead wife shows up on my doorstep. I'm not going to test her every way I ever learned. And Dean says, so what is it?
Did he do all the tests that you did on Dean that time?
Yeah, 100%.
Like throwing stuff at her, throwing holy water at her.
Stabbing her with silver. All the things. Bobby says, hell if I can tell. She's got no scars, no wounds, no reaction to salt, silver, holy water. Dean's like, Bobby, she crawled out of her coffin. And Bobby's like, no, she didn't. I cremated her. Somehow, some way, she's back. And Sam's like, that's impossible. And Bobby says, tell me about it. And Sam says, you bury her ashes? And Bobby's like, yeah. And Dean's like, where? And Bobby's like, in the cemetery. That's where they all rose from. And Dean says, how many? And Bobby's like, 15, 20. I made a list. There's Karen, Clay, Sheriff Mills, her little boy came back. And Sam's like, and there were no signs, no omens. And Bobby says, well, there were the lightning storms. And Dean's like, that's what we said. What else? Because initially he was like, it's just storm season in South Dakota. So Dean's like, what the hell, old man? And so then he reads this quote from the book of Revelation and says, and through the fire stood before me a pale horse, and he that sat atop him carried a scythe, and I saw since he had risen, they too shall rise, and from him and through him. And Dean's like, so what, death is behind this? And Sam's like, death? Death? Like Grim Reaper death? And Bobby's like, yeah. And Dean says, awesome. Another horseman. Must be Thursday. And that's where we get the must be Thursday from. So much fun. And Sam says, Bobby, why would death raise 15 people in a podunk town like Sioux Falls? And Bobby says, I don't know. And Dean says, you know, if death is behind this, then whatever these things are, it's not good. You know what we have to do here. And Bobby says that Karen doesn't remember anything. And Dean and he go back and forth with it basically, and he's saying that she doesn't remember being possessed and she doesn't remember Bobby killing her either. And then there's this really touching scene, and this is the part where you see the big difference in the lighting, where she's got all of this beautiful like Disney golden hour light, and they're sort of sitting in this dark gothic looking section of the room because it's so dark in comparison. And Bobby says, "Don't Bobby me, just listen, okay?" She hums when she cooks. She always used to hum when she cooked. Tone deaf is all hell, but and I never thought I would hear it again. Look, just read Revelation. The dead rise during the apocalypse. There's nothing in there that says it's bad. Hell, maybe it's the one good thing that comes out of this whole bloody mess. And Dean's like, "And what would you do if you were us?" And Bobby's like, "I know what I do. And I know what you think you got to do, but I'm begging you, please, please leave her be."
Aww, poor Bobby. I had a few things here. So first of all, I thought it was interesting that he doesn't get angry like he usually does. Not like really angry. Like he's usually calling them idiots and shouting, but he's calmer, he's sad, and then he kind of pleads with them. And that's different to how Bobby normally is. Also, I found 2 fun facts on IMDb. So Sam refers to Bobby's hometown as a podunk town like Sioux Falls, but apparently it's actually the largest city in South Dakota with approximately 160,000 people. So he calls it like a small town, but it's not. And then also the actress who plays Karen, she's a different actress who played her when we saw her in season 2. Oh, it was in My Time of Dying. But it's because the original actress was pregnant and the producers thought it would be too weird, even for Supernatural, it says, to feature a pregnant zombie. So yes, that's
even
why it's
for
a different
Supernatural.
Actress. Yeah. Oh, hang on, no, it wasn't. Sorry, it wasn't in My Time of Dying that we saw the first Karen. It was Dream a Little Dream of Me. It was in My Time of Dying that this actress was also in as a different character.
Okay. Yeah, so she's a repeat character, background character.
Yeah.
Well, this is
Navia,
like
swap your list.
Yeah. Add it to the spreadsheet. So we cut to the diner and Sam's saying, "So what do you think?" And Dean says, "There's nothing to think about. I'm not going to leave Bobby at home with the bride of Frankenstein." And I thought that was fun. And Sam says,
I did think of you with that quote.
The bride of Frankenstein. I love it so much. Sam says, "What do you want to do? Just walk in there in front of Bobby and blow her skull off?" And Dean's like, "If she decides that Bobby's face is the blue plate special, I'd like to be there." And Sam says, "Fine. Let's see what we can find out."
So then we cut to the salvage yard, and Dean is leaning on the Impala, which was a thirst trap, and Karen jump scares him by appearing from nowhere. And she says, "Sorry, did I scare you?" And Dean's like, "There's nothing scary about you," but he says it with nervous laughter.
Yeah.
And she says that she'll get him more pie, and we find out that Bobby has kicked Dean out of the house.
Yeah, because Bobby knows what Dean is like.
Yeah.
Bobby's like, "Stay away from my wife."
And then we see Sam at Sheriff Mills' house, and he's watching them through the window, and the family they're all reading their son a book on the sofa. And then we got back to Bobby's house, and Dean's now in the kitchen stuffing his face with pie. Joy, in your notes you wrote, stuffing his face with zombie pie.
Yeah.
That was funny. And yeah, Karen has apparently baked 1 million pies since coming back, and she says she can't stop baking. And also she knows the way to get to Dean is via pie.
Yeah. I wonder if this was strategic or if this was like just a happy coincidence.
Yeah. Do you think they were just going back to like their normal life, like what they used to do, and maybe she used to make loads of pies?
But, yeah, I mean, she seems like Susie Happy Homemaker, honestly. She doesn't really... I would be offended, but she does have a personality.
Yeah.
She does care about Bobby. She's not like this just one-dimensional little Susie Homemaker sort of character. But she's very, very close to that because they want to set up this idyllic wife home life situation and show us everything that Bobby's going to miss, basically.
I suppose people around Bobby's age, that was more common for like to have a housewife, and then the man was the one that worked and stuff.
Yeah.
So yeah.
So it seems like Bobby was doing the whole singer salvage thing before everything went wrong. And she was just kind of like a happy housewife and liked baking a lot. So she was fine.
Yeah.
So it's interesting too, because Dean says, "When do you have time to sleep?" And she's like, I don't. It must be the excitement." And Dean's like, "Or being dead."
Yeah.
And then they have a conversation, and she says that she knows that Dean is keeping an eye on her, and that it's really clear to her that Bobby isn't the same. She says, "mild mannered scrap dealer I married," which is kind of like a Clark Kent reference, a mild mannered reporter.
Mm.
Um, she says, "You hunt things. I'm a thing. I get it." And then Dean says, "You know that Sam and I would never let anything happen to Bobby, basically." And she's like, "I understand. He's lucky to have you, but you're not the only one." And Dean's like, "Is that so?" And Karen says that she remembers everything about dying, about the demon, and about Bobby having no choice but to kill her, basically.
Mm.
And she says that when she looks at him looking at her, she can see it in his eyes, and that he's weighed down by all this guilt. So Dean then asks her, "Why don't you just tell him that you remember?" And she says, "I'm going to go out on a limb and say that you've never been in love." And she's like, "He's my husband. My job is to bring him peace, not pain." So then we
Yeah.
finally understand like her motivations and what she knows. And that I thought was a really good scene.
Mm. It must be weird as for like the zombies to come back.
Yeah.
And like no, everything's moved on obviously since whenever you died, which is she was 20 years ago. Um yeah, I wonder what she was thinking about. Anyway.
I think in a way it's kind of like there's something really romantic about the fact that Bobby never marries again, never dates anyone else. Like I think Karen was the love of his life.
Yeah.
It's been 20 years and he still is in the same house that they sort of built together. Um and the only thing that's different really is he's become this incredibly amazing hunter.
Yeah.
So it's sort of deeply romantic. Okay, so speaking of zombies, our lore for the episode I thought would be about, something zombie like because I have covered revenants, I've covered zombies, I've covered Sioux Falls, South Dakota. I was like, what the hell am I going to do for this episode lore? And then it hit me. Lazarus Syndrome. So there is actually a medical phenomenon called Lazarus Syndrome where people spontaneously come back to life after they've been legally declared dead. Like they've been
Ooh.
dead for 10 minutes or more and they just suddenly come back. So to be like responsible and report the facts, um there are various medical theories about how and why this happens, but I don't think that they can totally explain it. Like they theorize why. And I think in a few cases they can maybe rationalize it away to like there's a thing that happens when you're giving CPR to someone where you can overflood the lungs with oxygen. It can become too much. So then after you've stopped, the oxygen circulates properly, and that can sometimes stimulate the
Hmm.
body to start to recover after you've stopped overstimulating it. Basically, there's certain drugs that can cause a delayed effect or like a death-like state, um, but there are some of them that are more inexplicable than others, and it's very rare. So there have been between like 76 and 80 cases of this.
Oh,
It's
cool.
been reported in medical literature from 1982 to 2022. But it does make me wonder, like after reading all of these case files, that whole thing where it's people are always like, "Oh, well, people back in the day didn't have good medicine, so it was really hard to tell if someone was dead or not." And I think
Yeah.
to a degree, obviously that is true, but it makes me wonder like how long Lazarus syndrome has been a thing for.
Yeah.
And it also is wildly underreported according to some of the stuff that I read because the doctors don't want to get sued for malpractice. So
Yeah, that
it's
makes sense.
this mysterious phenomenon and we're not really 100% sure how often it happens because there's times when it gets reported and then there's times when it doesn't get reported. And so that I find really interesting. So I'm going to read you a few of the ones that I kind of cherry picked out as the best ones. And then I have a few that are kind of like interesting, fascinating ones, but maybe not as good as these because I thought I would start with the best. I was like, we're eating our dessert first. So there was a man named Brian Miller whose heart stopped for 45 minutes and he was clinically dead. Okay. And this went on the news, like the local news station reported this. It all started when the Ohio truck driver felt the classic tightness in his chest and then pain. As it turned out, he was having a massive heart attack. His primary cardiac artery was blocked, normally a situation so deadly it is colloquially known as the Widowmaker. But Miller's death-defying experience didn't start here. He survived the heart attack after being rushed to hospital, only to go into further cardiac arrest after a complication known as ventricular fibrillation. While quote-unquote dead, Miller reported seeing bright lights and his mother-in-law who had died and stayed dead a short time earlier. Miller, however, came back to tell the tale. And as far as I can tell, he made a full recovery.
Wow. And he had a near-death experience. I love hearing about those.
Yeah. 45 minutes, though.
Wow. Yeah. So his brain must have still been getting oxygen because otherwise he would have come back, but not like he would have had brain damage or whatever.
This is the thing that's like, to me, this is the part that I don't think they can fully explain. Because when you read about Lazarus Syndrome, all the medical texts are understandably for doctors to avoid inadvertently, mistakenly identifying somebody as dead when they're not actually dead. So they're basically saying in the text, you have to wait for like a full 10 minutes after you've stopped giving CPR to make sure that something like this doesn't happen. But he was out for 45 and is apparently fine. Like some of them who come back fine and don't apparently have brain damage. Some of them come back and it's very temporary and then they sadly pass away. Some of them come back but then they do have brain damage because they were, in this kind of like very unhealthy state, starved of oxygen probably for a certain amount of time. So it's completely understandable that there are consequences. The things that I don't understand at all are the ones who come back after such a prolonged amount of time of being literally dead as far as medical science understands and seem to be fine.
Yeah.
Because how?
Yeah. Yeah.
And the answer is right now, we don't know. Because that is a long time.
Yeah, like, really long time.
So the next one is about Deepak Singh. He was at his own funeral and was about to be cremated. At the time,
oh my God.
The 72-year-old Indian man had other plans, however, standing up from a funeral pyre and walking to the great astonishment of his family and well-wishers. Singh had collapsed sometime earlier while husbanding cattle and was declared dead. He woke up just before his body was to be set alight. The story was reported by the New York Post. He said, quote, "I know I can be a bit of a pain at time," he joked, the paper reported, "but I hope that they wait until I'm actually dead again before trying to set me on fire."
Wait, how long was he dead for if they were having a funeral for him?
I don't know. It doesn't say.
Like, people don't usually like cremate someone like straight afterwards. That's well. He must have been out even longer than that first guy.
I know, right? These are wild. I do actually have a record holder as well. And again, she's one of the ones who's fine. And she was dead for a long ass time. And just spontaneously come back to life. Like,
well, I suppose at least he came back to life before he was set on fire.
Yeah. Yeah. He's just chilling, watching his cattle one day. Passes out in the field, dead. Everybody is like, yes, this man is dead. We should put him on a pyre because he's dead. And then he's like, wait, don't do that. I know I annoy you sometimes, but geez. Comes out cracking jokes. What a legend. So then we have our record holder who is Velma Thomas, who is 59, of Nitro, West Virginia, United States. She holds the record time for recovering from clinical death. In May of 2008, and this is the other thing, is like a lot of these are recent. Like some of these happened in like 2025, some of them, but they're pretty much all after the 2000s.
Oh.
So this is May of 2008. She goes into cardiac arrest at her home. Medics are able to establish a faint pulse after 8 minutes of CPR. Her heart then stopped twice after arriving at the hospital, and she was placed on life support. Doctors attempted to lower her body temperature to prevent additional brain injury. She was declared clinically dead for 17 hours after doctors failed to detect brain activity.
Whoa.
17 hours. Okay. Her son, Tim Thomas, said that her skin had already started hardening. Her hands and toes were curling up and they were already drawn, as in, like, she was like, they thought she was going into rigor
Yeah.
mortis, right? She's taken off life support and funeral arrangements are in progress. But then 10 minutes after being taken off of life support, she revived and recovered.
So life support was doing the opposite
Yeah.
of what it should have been doing.
Yeah.
17 hours.
Yeah.
How?
I don't know. I frankly do not know with that one. 17 hours.
Oh my gosh.
Right. Okay. So now I have some lesser cases.
Do you know what this is all reminding me of? You know, you were saying about how these are recent, but like in Victorian times, they used to bury people with a bell, didn't they? So that
This
they
is
could
what I'm
hear
saying.
people. If
Yeah.
people were buried alive, they'd be like,
Yeah.
"Oh wait, I'm still here."
This is
So it
what I
must
mean,
have
because
happened.
we're all like, oh, these quack doctors back in the day weren't checking properly, or like we didn't know enough and we don't have all these fancy machines. And I understand, like, I don't want to blow it out of proportion. This is obviously rare. Like,
Yeah.
we're talking a handful of cases globally, right?
Yeah.
So even if there are cases that are underreported, it's still not going to be a popular, common phenomenon. But like, it does make you question if sometimes when we're all like, oh, they were just idiots back in the day, if some of them, at least a minority of them, were actually Lazarus syndrome.
I just think the majority of the ones in Victorian times were just that they thought people were dead.
Misidentified. Yeah.
And didn't have the equipment and things to work out if they probably were.
Yeah.
This is like my worst nightmare. Like people thinking you're dead and then being like buried alive or something. And then you wake up.
Yeah, there are some really scary stories, and that's that I have specifically chosen to not share because I feel like they would traumatize people.
Yeah, this is horrible.
So I've leaned into the happier tales where people come back to life and then are just alive again.
Cool. And I appreciate that.
You're welcome. You're welcome. Yeah, so I just have like a little handful of much shorter ones that are sort of like still cool, but like a bit less cool. So one is a 27-year-old man in the UK collapsed after overdosing on heroin and cocaine. Paramedics gave him naloxone injection, the counter to like bring you down and sort you out, right? And he recovered enough to walk to the ambulance himself. He went into cardiac arrest, though, in the transit. After 25 minutes of resuscitation efforts, the patient was verbally declared dead. About a minute after resuscitation ended, a nurse noticed a rhythm on the heart monitor and resuscitation was resumed. So the patient fully recovered. A 66-year-old man suffering from a suspected abdominal aneurysm suffered cardiac arrest and received chest compressions and defibrillation hawks for 17 minutes during treatment for his condition. Vital signs did not return. The patient was declared dead and resuscitation efforts ended. 10 minutes later, the surgeon felt a pulse. The aneurysm was successfully treated and the patient fully recovered with no lasting physical or neurological problems.
Well.
And that's why we have the 10-minute rule now. But yeah, this spooky. And I thought
17-hour rule though.
The 17-hour rule for some people, yeah. So I thought it was really interesting, and that it went with the episode well because people are just coming back to life.
And even people that have been cremated.
We're about to be. Yeah.
Yeah, but like Bobby's wife was cremated.
Oh yeah, true.
And she came back to life.
A good point. Yeah.
So even that didn't stop it.
Yeah.
Yeah, they were good stories.
Yeah.
So we cut back to Sam, and he's now at the house of someone called Mrs. Jones, and he knocks, but there's no answer, and he sees blood on the floor, so he lets himself in. This looked like a hoarder's house, by the way, and there was also, I don't know if you saw it, there was a creepy doll in the hallway as he walked through.
I didn't notice that, but trust me,
It was like
notice it.
a split second. I was like, what was that? Why was that there? And then we see an old lady
Yeah.
lying in the bed.
She's old because she has grey hair. God forbid.
And she's obviously sick, and she's coughing and foaming at the mouth, and she gestures for Sam to come closer, and he really doesn't want to go near her, and I don't blame him.
He's like, no, this is a terrible idea.
He's like, you think you can maybe tell me from here?
Yeah.
And then he goes close to me. He's like, I'm going to regret this. He leans in close. She tries to say something. She then attacks him, spitting mucus onto him in the process. Now, that's what Joy wrote in the notes. I wrote, she drips something from her mouth all over his face. What was that? Because not going to lie, it looked very questionable.
It did look very questionable.
It was disgusting. And Sam then notices a dead man on the floor with his stomach not there anymore, basically. And he has to shoot Mrs. Jones in the head through her open mouth. Zombie style.
Yeah. Gross.
Yeah. Ew. That was gross. That was, for all the blood and gore and stuff, this bit was like one of the most disgusting parts of the whole episode.
Yeah, easily. This part feels very rated R.
Yeah. I was like, what? Why is she like spitting on him? Ew.
It was horrific. Okay, so we then cut to Bobby's house, and Bobby says, keep your damn voices down. Karen's upstairs, because he's talking to Dean and Sam. And Dean's like, oh, I'm sorry. We're a little tense right now. Who's old lady Jones? And Bobby's like, the first one to come up. And Sam says the first one to go bad. And Bobby's like, she was always a nutty broad. And Dean's like, nutty how? Nutty like the way she ate her husband's stomach? Was that the level of nutty she was in life? And Bobby's like, no. And Dean says, look, Bobby, I feel for you. But you've got to acknowledge that you're not exactly seeing this straight. And Sam says, Bobby, whether you admit it or not, these things are turning. We have to stop them. All of them. And he looks like meaningfully at Bobby. And Bobby pulls out a gun and rests it on his lap. And he's like, time to go. And Dean's like, what? And Dean is shook. And Bobby says, you heard me off my property. And Sam's like, or what? You'll shoot? And Bobby says, if Karen turns, I will handle it my way. And Dean says, this is dangerous. And Bobby cocks the gun and says, I'm not telling you twice. And then they leave.
Yeah. I mean, I feel like they should be able to trust Bobby here, because, like, yes, he's already had to kill his wife once. I think he would do it again, and I think they should, like, understand that. But also, I don't know, I can see where they're both coming from, I guess.
Yeah. I can too. Because, like, Bobby's very capable.
He just wants a little bit extra time with her.
Well, I think here's the thing is I'm going to be really honest and say, if I was living this episode, I totally understand where all these people are coming from. Because until there's evidence, like evidence in your face that your particular loved one is actually turning zombie, you're never going to allow anyone to do anything. And if it was Sam and Dean, and one of the zombies that was returned, even though they are zombies, but if one of the zombies was Sam or Dean, there's no way that Dean would ever let anyone put a bullet in Sam's head. It wouldn't happen.
He didn't encourage her, did he?
Exactly.
That's a true, like, zombie horror thing, though, isn't it? Because, like, if somebody always by a zombie,
tragically bitten, yeah,
and then they have to decide whether they're going to kill them before they turn or wait until they turn. Yeah. So maybe it's kind of like a bit of a reference to that, I guess.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Like, it's a difficult decision, because, like, the person in the zombie film who's been bitten is usually like, kill me first, I don't want to turn. But then the people who love them are like, but you might not turn.
Yeah.
Let's just wait and see. And then if you are going to turn, then we'll do it. But yeah.
It's very true. Very true. The person who wrote the transcript for this on Supernatural Wiki is so done, because it says interior and Paula night. I don't know.
I don't know.
I don't know. Just done.
Well, Sam and Dean have one of their classic heart-to-heart kind of
They
conversations.
do. They do. So Dean says he's crazy. And Sam says it's his wife, Dean. Dean says, so he goes full metal jacket on us? We're his family, Sam. I was like, oh. And Sam says, look, man, bigger fish, okay? I mean, we got a bunch of zombies about to turn this town into a giant chew toy. And Dean says, yeah, and he's alone in the house making pie with one of them. Sam says, all right, so? And Dean says, so I'm going to have to go back there and kill her. That's the only thing I can think of. And Sam says, if he sees you, you're a dead man. And Dean says, well, then I guess I won't let him see me. And Sam says, okay, I'll head to town and rescue everyone. Should be easy. And he says it like super sarcastically, like, great, thanks. Thanks for dividing us up. I'll just handle every single other person in town. That's fine, Dean. That's fine. Basically, Sam says that he's going to need help, and Dean tells him to go to the sheriff. And Sam is like, last time I checked, the sheriff was pretty pro-zombie. And Dean says, well, I guess you'll just have to convince her. And Sam's like, how? And Dean says, I don't know. You're just gonna. He's like, this is your problem, not my problem. This looks like a Sam problem to me.
So then we go back to the sheriff's house, and it's clear that the little boy is now sick because he's a zombie, and he says he's hungry and he has a temperature of 111 degrees, and she says she's going to make him some soup. And Jody then is calling the doctor, and I was like, what's 111 degrees? Because this is obviously Fahrenheit, and I'm like, I'm English, I need to know this is in Celsius. And yeah, it's 44 degrees Celsius. And I wrote, I'm pretty sure no one can survive that. Although I guess he's already dead, so the rules may not apply. But I looked it up, and it says a temperature of 44 degrees Celsius or higher is almost always fatal, causing cardiovascular failure and irreversible brain damage. So yeah, that's too hot.
That is too hot.
That's too hot. But he is a zombie.
That is way too hot. All of this really reminded me of Night of the Living Dead, though, because this is how the zombies go in that. They like get sick first. Like they seem normal, then they get sick, and then there's like the coughing and the fever, and then they turn into zombies.
Yeah, that's scary. Like temperature is really scary, and it's really weird how temperature works as well. Because I remember I had to take my brother to the hospital. I think it was at the start of COVID actually, and he had a temperature of 42, and they were really, really worried about him, and they kept putting fans and stuff on him, but he was freezing. Like he kept shivering.
Yeah.
And he kept trying to put like blankets on, and we were like, no, you got to have him off, because the nurses were trying to get his temperature down. But it's really scary what a temperature can do to you.
Yeah, fevers are weird, but I guess it's because you're like cooking yourself from the inside, as your immune system is trying to raise the temperature to one that the bacteria or virus can't survive. But then it's like you can kind of give yourself heat stroke from the inside if the fever runs too high for too long.
Yeah.
So it can definitely be scary.
Yeah, I remember being scared anyway. So then we cut back to Bobby's house, and Dean is stalking around outside, and Bobby warns Karen away from the windows because he must know that Dean's out there. And then Karen collapses, displaying all the zombie symptoms, and she says she just needs something to eat and she'll be fine.
That's what they all say.
Yeah. Okay, Karen.
Brains. Although these zombies go for guts instead of brains.
Ugh. Yeah.
So then we cut back to Sheriff Mills' house. It is so gross. And she's still on the phone with the doctor, saying she doesn't know how to explain what's happening. That's why she's calling him. And then she hears a strange noise. So she drops the phone and she goes around the corner and she's like, Sean? Owen? And then she finds her husband dead on the floor, blood everywhere, blood on the kid's gory face. Like, we don't actually see much, but like the child is holding a full intestine, okay, in his hand. And he's like, he looks up at her and his face is smattered in blood. And then we just sort of see the outline of the corpse of her dead husband in the background. And this is such hardcore horror for a TV show. It's wild to me.
It was really gory. And she is horrified because her son starts coming towards her, and then Sam bursts in and drags her outside. And I had written in my notes, I mean, what did people think was going to happen when all these zombies turned up? And also, Sam is a thirst trap.
I knew you were going to be like, this is a thirst trap.
It was good.
Yeah.
Because it's like the human shield thing, sort of. Sam explains everything to Jody, and she agrees to help. And then basically Sam has to go inside to kill him. But this was really emotional scene because, and actually I wrote in my notes that she's a really good actor. The emotion she conveys here in a few seconds is amazing because she's scared.
Yeah.
She's sad that she has to kill her zombie son, but is also really determined and like a badass because she's the sheriff.
Yeah.
And she has to save everyone.
Jody is such a phenomenal character, and Kim Rhodes is such a phenomenal actress.
Yeah,
I can't picture anyone else playing Jody, just like I can't picture anyone else playing Dean or Sam.
Yeah.
Like, she's perfectly cast. She's so good in this episode. Like, you cannot watch this part and not cry. And also, it's such an echo of what happens with Madison and Hart.
Yeah.
And this time it's Sam doing the shooting.
Yeah.
And she's the one suffering horribly. But it's like such an echo of that.
Yeah, it is. I hadn't thought about that. I'm glad that she's gonna be a recurring character.
Yeah, she's the best.
I like her.
You're gonna be so obsessed with her. I honestly can't wait for you to see more episodes.
Cool. I suppose it's because it's like Bobby's hometown. They can have people like back again because they go there often, obviously.
Yeah. So we cut back to Bobby's house, and Karen is clearly very sick. Bobby is holding her hand while she lies in a bed looking very turning. Like, she's so pale. She's hacking. She has all of the symptoms. And she says that she's so hungry. And Bobby says, I'll fix you something to eat in a minute. And Karen says, I can feel it. It's happening. And Bobby says, shh, it's going to be all right. And Karen says, no, it's not. I'm turning, Bobby. You know I am. And he kind of looks at a gun on the table. And she says, it's okay. Do it. And Bobby says, no way. And Karen says, please. And Bobby says, no. And Karen says, I remember. And Bobby's like, you remember what? And Karen says, everything. The demon inside me. You killing me. I remember. And Bobby says, then you know why I can't do it again. And Karen says, I remember something else too. When I came back, there was a man. And Bobby says, what do you mean a man? And Karen says, at the grave, he was so thin, like a skeleton. And he told me to give you a message. And Bobby says, me? What? Why didn't you tell me about this before? And Karen says, you've seen so much. I just wanted to see you smile. And Bobby says, what was the message? And then we cut away to the front door where Dean is quietly breaking into the house with his gun ready. And then we hear a gunshot. And Dean's like, Bobby? And he runs upstairs and sees that Bobby shot Karen. And Bobby's still holding her hand.
Yeah, it's really sad.
It's horrific.
In my notes I wrote, see, Bobby comes across as a gruff, grumpy guy, but he's a big softy at heart, and I love him for that. And it's also really sad that he's now had to kill his wife twice. And I did another heartbreak emoji, and I wrote, how many heartbreak emojis have I used today? Too many, supernatural writers.
Pay for your therapy. Why would you do this? Emotional damage.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Poor Bobby. I don't like it when Bobby's sad.
No. Bobby should never be sad. It's like, how much does he have to suffer? His wife gets possessed by a demon, then he has to kill her, then he gets possessed by a demon, then he manages to break through that possession, but then severs his own spine to save Dean, basically, because he stabs himself to save Dean. Then his wife comes back from the dead during the apocalypse as a horrible, horrible zombie at the end anyway. And then he has to kill her again. And it's like, honestly, when will it be enough?
Yeah, that's yeah. And he kind of says that at the end, doesn't he? Like, how many times am I going to have to do this? Oh, poor Bobby.
Sad faces.
Yeah, sad faces.
Sad faces. So then we cut back to the police station. This scene gets so funny. Sam's like, All right, if I hand you a gun and you see a dead person, I don't care if it's your friend, your neighbor, or your wife. You shoot for the head. That's the only way we survive. And there's a man in the back who's kind of like, you mind telling us who the hell you are? And I was like, shut up. And then Sam's like, a friend of Bobby Singer's. And he says it the way that somebody in an action movie would be like, I'm a friend of the Terminator, you know? Which is adorable because he hero worships Bobby. So he's like, I'm a friend of Bobby Singer's. And the man just goes, town drunk. And Sam looks so embarrassed. And he's like, no, I thought. And then he nods at Digger. He was the town drunk. And then the man says, who told you that? And then Sam says, Bobby Singer. And then he's like, there's this uncomfortable silence. And he looks like he wants to die. And then he's like, stay sharp. I'll watch the front door. So then we cut back to the salvage yard. And Dean says, Bobby, if you want to sit this one out. And I was like, is that a wheelchair joke? Because, when Pam was like, is that a blind joke? I was like, is that a wheelchair joke?
Like an accidental one, yeah, probably.
Yeah. Which is just kind of funny because in the next scene where he's running through the house with Bobby, he's like pushing Bobby's wheelchair. In real life, there's that blooper where Jensen trips over the carpet while he's running. And Jim Beaver in the wheelchair just slides off into the kitchen or wherever is off that camera. And Jensen from the floor goes, run, Bobby, save yourself. And he's just rolling away at like top speed. It's so funny. So basically in this scene there's a noise and Dean goes to investigate the noise, and then we cut back to the police station and Sam opens the door and kind of looks out at the town and then shakes his head and looks at Sheriff Mills all meaningfully. We're supposed to be like building tension. And then we cut back to the salvage yard and Dean's walking through it while Bobby's there with a shotgun. And he's like, Dean? And then he fires at a zombie, which tackles Dean to the ground.
Yeah, and he loses his gun because they still haven't implemented the bungee cord idea.
They have not. And they never will. Fun fact.
So yeah, Dean punches the zombie and tries to reach for his gun, and Bobby is shouting Dean. Bobby shoots and kills a zombie as it runs at him, and then another zombie because it's moving behind the cars. Dean finally gets his gun and shoots the zombie that attacked him. That was pretty hot. Mm-hmm. And then Bobby is shouting Dean again, and multiple zombies now attack both Dean and Bobby. One of them throws Bobby out of his wheelchair onto the ground, and Dean shoots it. And then Bobby's like, a little help here? And Dean helps him get back into his wheelchair and picks up his gun. And then this is where I write, then there's some sort of parkour zombie who's moving as fast as the rage zombies in 28 Days Later, jumping over all the cars towards them. And they've got to like basically shoot the zombies as they retreat back into the house. And they make it inside. Dean asks Bobby if he's got any more ammo because he's low. And Bobby says, yeah, we got plenty. Just run back past the zombies. It's in the van where we left it. And Dean says, a simple no would have been fine. I love the sarcasm.
Yeah. It's really funny.
Yeah.
So then they end up locking themselves in a closet when they get inside like properly because the zombies are still breaking in everywhere. And I'm pretty sure this is the same closet that they hid in from Karen in Dream a Little Dream of Me.
Yeah.
It's clearly Dean's go-to move in an emergency with Bobby. Hide in the closet. So while they're locked in the closet, the zombies start pounding on the door. And Bobby's like, kind of a tight fit, don't you think? Because they are jammed. It is tiny. It's a tiny little coat closet or something. And they're like neck in there. And Dean says, it's all right. They're idiots. They can't pick a lock. And then immediately, as soon as he says that, I guess they heard him. They start trying to pick the lock. And like the door handle starts turning suspiciously. And Bobby's like, don't you ever get tired of being wrong. And Dean's like, I'm making this stuff up as I go. Sue me. It's so funny. And then the closet door opens and Dean starts beating the zombies with the butt of his shotgun. And then we hear Sam, because there's a lot of them. And you think, oh no, they're so fucked. And then you hear Sam going, get down. And then Sam and Jody start shooting all of the zombies and coming in to rescue them. And Sam's like, are you okay? And I was like, oh, Sam's all heroic.
And they're strapped.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is where we get the blood splatter that we talked about. So it's like Resident Evil.
Yeah. Very
And
cool.
I'm convinced that that's what it was. It was supposed to be. It wasn't. It was intentional.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, and Sam just asks if they're okay, and Bobby just looks shell shocked. Bless him.
Yeah. So, we cut to Dean and Sheriff Mills and Sam in front of a huge funeral pyre. And Dean says, well, if there's any zombies left out there, we can't find them. And Sam says, how are the townspeople? And Sheriff Mills says, pretty freaked out, hell, traumatized. A few of them are calling the papers. As far as I can tell, nobody's believed him yet. And Sam's like, would you? And she shakes her head. And he says, how are you holding up? And he says it in this very sympathetic, cute, adorable Sam way. And
Yeah,
Dean asks if that's everyone, because Jody basically just like makes this
she's just speechless,
horrified, pained face, and Sam makes a face back that says, "I understand this completely."
He's really
and he does.
sympathetic and cute. Yeah,
It's really cute. So Dean says it's not everyone, and Sam says all but one. And then we cut to the Singer salvage yard where Bobby has given Karen a hunter's funeral, basically, like he's built the pyre the way that they would build it for any of the hunters, which I thought was very touching. And then he says that he thinks he should apologize for losing his head back there. And Sam says, Bobby, you don't know us anything. And Dean says, hey, look, I know I don't know squat from Shinola about love, but at least you got to spend 5 days with her, right? And this is where I had to look this up because I was like, what the hell did I just hear with my ears? Like, what was that? So it turns out, don't know shit from Shinola was a colloquialism dating back to the early 1940s in the United States, which sometimes ended with that's why your shoes don't shine, because Shinola was this popular brand of shoe polish which had a color and texture not unlike feces, as it turns out. The word shit was probably changed here due to broadcast television rules against profane language.
So it was like a shoe polish joke.
Yeah, it was actually a shoe polish joke.
Oh, I did not know that.
Me neither. Now we know. No. Okay. So then Bobby says, right, which makes things about 1,000 times worse. She was the love of my life. How many times do I got to kill her? And then all of our hearts die.
Yeah.
They crumble into ashes and are never seen again.
Put us on that pyre.
Yeah. We are also done. Sam says, are you going to be okay, Bobby? And Bobby says, you boys should know. Karen told me why death was here. And Sam says, what do you mean? And Bobby says, I know why he took a stroll through a cemetery in the sticks of South Dakota. He came for me. And Dean's like, what do you mean, you? And Bobby says, death came for me. He brought Karen back to send me a message. And Dean's like, you? Why you? Bobby says, because I've been helping you, you sons of bitches. I'm one of the reasons you're still saying no to Lucifer, Sam. And Dean's like, so this was like a hit on your life? And Bobby says, I don't know. I don't know if they wanted to take my life or my spirit. Either way, they wanted me out of the way. And Sam says, but you're going to be all right. Right, Bobby? And he says it like a little kid to his dad. And Bobby just doesn't answer him.
No.
And then it's the end of the episode because they wanted us to be so depressed.
Yeah, it was very
so depressed
at the end.
Oh my god. Why? Why Supernatural?
Yeah. So yeah, that's the end of the episode. Do you want to do games?
Yes, please.
Okay. Villain, hot or not? There isn't really a villain because technically it's Death and we didn't see him.
We don't see him, no.
So, moot point?
Yeah, I think it's moot.
Okay. Episode scare rating.
I gave it a 9.5.
That's what I did too. We're matching.
Twins!
We never match on these.
I love it when they rate in unison.
Yeah, well, it's pretty scary. The zombies, the gore, the emotional trauma.
It's a lot.
The old lady spitting on Sam.
Yeah, that was horrible. This is another really good like Halloween watch episode.
Yeah, if you want to like be heartbroken at the end of it.
Oh yeah, that's true.
Yeah. Did you have a reason or just the same reasons?
It was all the same reasons, to be honest with you.
Okay. Favorite quotes?
I'm a taxpayer.
Yeah, I've got that one.
That was so funny. And then there's that one scene where Karen's like, I don't sleep, I guess it's all the excitement, and Dean's like, or the being dead. That was
Yep.
also really, really funny. And then there's the scene where they meet Digger, and Dean's like,
Yeah.
who gave you that name? And Digger's like, I did. And then Dean's like, you can't give yourself your own nickname. And Digger's all like, who died made you queen.
I think that's my favorite one.
That's I'm a taxpayer is my favorite one, but that's my second favorite one easily. I think those are all the ones that really stand out to me.
Yeah. I also had Bobby saying, don't you ever get tired of being wrong?
Oh yeah, that was really funny.
But yeah, I think the who died and made you queen was my favorite.
Yeah.
Thirst traps.
I think for me personally, the biggest thirst trap is when Dean and Bobby are fighting the zombies in the junkyard, and Dean is just being like an absolute savage, and he's so fast and so strong, and that was amazing. And I like it when Sam is trying to protect people. That's also really good. Like the one I guess the biggest Sam thirst trap for me is when he protects Jody from having to shoot her own son. Because he's like being an emotional human shield, like what you said earlier.
Yeah. Yeah. I had mine all Sam. I had Sam digging the grave, Sam grabbing Sheriff Mills and dragging her outside when her son eats her husband.
Yeah.
And Sam shooting. That's a weird sentence.
That is Sam, a really weird sentence.
The things we say on this podcast.
The things we say for sure. What the hell?
And Sam shooting the zombies to save Dean and Bobby at the end.
Yep. I agree.
MVP.
Ooh, MVP in this episode. Like, here's the thing. Here's the thing. Is I have to give it to Sam because Sam does all of the heavy lifting this episode because Dean is so obsessed with his daddy Bobby and how he must save Bobby. And Bobby is dad and he loves him and can't ever let anything ever happen to him. He's like, Sam, you can handle the entire town by yourself, right, buddy? And Sam's like, yeah, I guess I'll do that then.
Yep. Yeah, it's Sam because it is Sam. I had Sam and or Sheriff Mills together because Bobby and Dean would have probably been killed if they didn't save them.
Yeah. Like they definitely saved Bobby and Dean from becoming zombie chow. And they worked really well together. Jody, especially because Jody literally just watched her son eat her husband. And that's horrific. I cannot think I can't think of anything worse than that, honestly. Like that's horrible. She's been through so much, and instead of crying and being a ball on the floor like most people would have, she just kind of takes a breath and she saves everybody that she can save. So she is clearly a hero. Like alongside Sam and Dean and Bobby. She's just so tough, and it's very nice and very refreshing to see her as like a counterpoint to Karen, who spends her entire afterlife baking pies all day. Like, no offense to her, but that's what she's doing with her time. And Jody is out saving the world. So I really appreciated that.
Shade to Karen.
I'm not trying to shade Karen. I just feel like all that woman did this whole episode was cook food. And there's so much going on. She just made dessert the entire, and baking is my stress response too. I sometimes will bake if I am stressed out. And she was very stressed out. So I don't want to deny this woman her coping mechanism, but there was a lot going on. And I feel like she could have done more.
I was going to say, maybe she was just trying to cope with the fact that she's a zombie and she knew she was probably going to die soon.
Yeah.
Be killed soon.
By her husband.
Trying to distract herself. Yeah.
Yeah.
So we don't have a motel, but we do have Bobby's house, which we always love. And now it's also cleaner.
Yeah. It's sparkling and smells like soap.
Smells like soap. So yeah, so even better.
Yeah.
So 5 stars.
Yeah, 5 stars for sure. I would stay there, add it to the road trip.
Yeah, we should add Bobby's house to the road trip.
I wonder if Bobby's house is both a physical location and like a little bit of the interior, like some houses are, like I think the Charmed house was like that, and also sets and sound stages, because like I love the idea that Bobby's house sort of exists in the real world because I want to move there.
Yeah. Although I suppose we don't really see a lot of the outside of it. We just see the yard, don't we?
Yeah.
I don't know if I've ever seen the outside of the house. But
We do a couple of times, but I'm not sure how consistent it is, which makes me think that
yeah.
it might just be like a soundstage set type situation.
Oh.
But in my imagination, it's a real house that I can buy and live in. And that's what I'm going to choose to believe.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Me too.
Salulu is the Salulu.
So yeah, that's it. That's the episode.
So that's the episode. That's the episode that emotionally, mentally, almost physically scarred us.
Yes.
Thank you for coming along on this ride, the emotional damage ride, the tour of tragedy that is this episode of Supernatural. I feel like we should have, like, you guys should let us know what you think are the most tragic episodes from season 1 to season 5, where we are now, because this has got to be in like the top 10 for sure.
I think also the one you brought up earlier with the werewolf one, where
Heart. Yeah, Heart is really tragic. Obviously, I know we slate John, but it's genuinely so sad when John dies in like season 1, season 2, he dies. That's really, really sad. There's just why do we love this show so much? It hurts us. I feel like Gollum. It burns. It burns us.
See, for every scene that's heartbreaking, you've also got like a scene that's hilarious, and or like sweet, and like heartfelt, and you're just like, oh, damn it, this show has everything.
This show's so good. It does have everything, and like a lot of eye candy, which does not hurt.
Yeah, true.
Yeah, that's what keeps you coming back through all the pain and the heartache and the terror. The pretty, pretty boys. Praise be the Lord of Thirst.
So yeah, let us know what was your favorite part of this episode as well, and we'll see you next week.
Bye.
Bye.
Thanks for tuning in. If you like this episode, please rate, review, and subscribe. We would be very grateful. And if you know someone who would enjoy it, please share.
You can find us on Instagram at the Witches of Letters podcast, or you can email us at thewitchesofletters@gmail.com.
Until next time, stay safe out there, have each other's backs, and always keep fighting.